on the other one, you bastard!
The Robots in Disguise line is quite a controversial one, with a loved or hated series, depending on who you ask, a deeply disappointing gimmick-laden line, although not as bad as Cyberverse, a warrior line that started out kind of shaky but evolved into an amazing line by the end of it, but the one thing that's always remained constant was the Legion lineup. From the get-go, they were amazingly engineered figures with deep, involved transformations and incredibly well-executed robot modes. From the brief time I've spent with it on this channel, I think it's safe to say that out of all the Legion lines, it is my favourite. The sheer level of quality amongst each and every figure is unparalleled. But every line has its stinker. Every single line has that one figure that doesn't pull its weight. And of all the figures to do so, why did it have to be Cyclonus? Vehicle mode not off to a great start already, aren't we? So Cyclonus is a sort of updated version of his G1 counterpart, a messily updated version with structural issues. Right off the bat, this just does not scream Robots in Disguise 2015. A lot of people skipped the line, but they had pretty unique and solid vehicle modes. Like, let's just pick one randomly out of the hat. Say, Bisque, for example. Nice, clean outlines, clear and concise aesthetic. Everything's solid, everything's tiny, everything's chunky. This right here, just, where do we even begin? First off, the arms are just on show, sitting at the back there. Completely out of place, and it's very difficult to tab in. Once they do tab in, it's fine, but it is difficult to get them in there, given the tabbing mechanism. The nose cone doesn't tab in, it just droops down like that. Massive oversight, should have tabbed in. Yes, it's nice they molded in landing gear, but the landing gear doesn't work if as soon as you put any load on it, bam. The wingspan is pretty nice, but it's extremely low, which makes all of this kibble on the top here look incredibly ugly. I do like the back section with the shoulder panels becoming the stabilizers. That is pretty cool. But this whole leg section on the top here, it just does not work. It is completely clunky, and it really ruins the design. I get that Cyclonus isn't the easiest design to get done in this scale, except all they had to do was turn it upside down. If they had made everything under kibble and just had everything fold over the top, that would have been fine. Backpack former. He already is technically a backpack former because that all folds into his backpack. There was no reason to make it that complex and show everything on the top. Robots in Disguise was known for doing incredibly complex and unique transformations in their Legion lineups. It's probably my favorite Legion lineup that Hasbro has ever done, due to how much fun the designers were having, engineering everything. But I suppose not every risk pays off. There's always going to be some stinkers like this. I can see the base of a really lovely design here, but it does not work. Also, don't bother complaining about the QR code. We all know it's a thing. We all know it's part of the deal with these kinds of figures. A lot of them are great without it. You don't need to worry about that. And just to show I'm not bullshitting, and yes, RID did have great alt modes in the Jet lineup, here we have Starscream, a retool of Windblade, but does some amazing things with the parts. Manages to hide the shoulder stacks in very well into the chassis. Remarkable little Jet mode. This is what this should have been. In fact, if they just redecoed that into Cyclonus, it probably would have been fine, but no. Anyway, size-wise, he has a wingspan of 8 centimeters and a length of roughly 8.5 centimeters. And size-wise, here he is next to a standard Legion figure, and you can see that the mass distribution is all over the place. Have they just made everything tuck in much more, maybe had the transformation upside down, it would have turned out much better. A standard Legends figure, a standard Earthrise Micromaster, and crumbs. Much like many of the Robots in Disguise 2015 transformations in the Legion lineup, it is quite unique, it is quite clever, but that's probably why it failed so much. Anyway, you unpeg that from there and fold it out. Folds in there, and you can fold up the feet there. Surprisingly, you don't turn it around, but yeah, you move these arms down, rotate the shoulder stacks up, they're on the same hinge on the inside, bring everything down and rotate it into place like so. Then you take the backpack and double fold it into the back there. Doesn't peg in, but whatever. And robot mode. You want to know what the biggest problem with this guy is? Just turn him to the side. He is way too flat. There is virtually no definition to the chest at all. The entire thing here, there's just nothing to him. Especially considering it's a fake chest, there's virtually no reason for that to be the case. And yeah, I love the wingspan, it's kinda cool, but it gets lost behind these giant shoulders. It's a clunky design, and sure, the backpack is remarkably clean for a Legends figure, but I would have gladly made that messier if the design turned out better. The legs are fine, I suppose, and the arms, they're passable, but in general, it's a bit of a disappointing robot mode, especially in the lack of paint. There's not much paint here, especially on a Robots in Disguise figure. Those did have a substantial amount of paint in the line. They really skimped on the budget here. It just does not work. And another thing, the head sculpt kind of sucks. Well, the helmet's fine, but that face sculpt, it's bleh. Just looks f***ing goofy. Looks like I'm looking at a Ditto inside there. I get that they have to simplify it to make it so small, but this just, what the f***? This is not Cyclonus! Yeah, I actually like the Robots in Disguise Cyclonus design from the show, even though I haven't seen it, but that's not Cyclonus from the show or from G1 or anything. It's fucking ditto, mate! It's fucking ditto! At least the articulation is fine, you get rotation out there, and a ball joint at the elbow, although it doesn't go outwards that much. It goes out a little bit, but not that much. Still, at least that acts as kind of a wrist swivel. You get ball joints here and knee bends, although the knee is so high up that you can barely see it, and the foot rotates down like that. So not a lot of great poses you can get this guy in, but he is a Legends figure, so it doesn't really matter. Not like you're gonna want to transform him, though, given his kind of ugly design. Size-wise, Cyclonus is both 8 centimeters wide and 8 centimeters tall, but he's got no depth to him, which is kind of the problem. Anyway, you got your standard Legion figure, and is actually quite a bit shorter than that. Probably because all the budget went into the backpack. A bit of a mistake. All the budget went in there, and they couldn't even make a tab in vehicle mode. That's a shame. That's pretty pathetic. And you got your standard Legends figure, your standard Earthrise Micromaster. Wait! I found the wheel! Yeah! And Crumbs. Ultimately, there are just better Legion figures in the line to get, many of which I've discussed before, and many of which I will discuss in the future. I love the Robots in Disguise Legion lineup. It's one of the most creative things that Hasbro has done at the small scale, but this is the one absolute stinker of the line. I can't think of any other figure in the line that has done as worse as this. Well, size class anyway. Oh well, nothing lost. I guess there's other third-party Cycloni that you can get out there. So this figure failed. It tried to do something unique, and it failed. That is always going to happen. Doesn't change the fact that it is a bit of a shit figure, but ultimately, I can't hate it too much. The RID line delivered so many quality figures, so if this is the only mix-up they had, they're pretty good. I mean, there is one other mix-up I can think of that I might get to eventually, but it's not as bad as this. I suppose I'm a little disappointed that it happened to Cyclonus, you know, a character that I love. Maybe not from the show, because I haven't seen that far, I only saw the first 2 seasons, but you know, everyone loves Cyclonus. But there's already a Legends version, 2 as a matter of fact, from third parties, so it's fine. Ultimately, he's just a skippable figure. Not an angrily skippable figure, not one you should lament over. Just a shit figure that happens to be shit. There are plenty of figures in the Legends lineup that are worth much more scrutiny and much more grievance. The figures that you thought could have been amazing, but they just didn't. Yet, for some reason, everyone thinks they are great. So tomorrow we're tackling the first full review of the marathon and discuss one of the figures that everyone gives so much praise to, but it really isn't worth it. And they keep coming back time and time again when they should be left in the past. So, see you tomorrow.